Yeah, follow, like, share, subscribe, all of that good stuff. Hype the channel if that option is available. We're on our way, cruising toward 100K. And, this Pantera album in full will be in the Patreon link below if you want to see the full reaction. Nevertheless, we will be dropping these track by track on the YouTube, so stay tuned for that. But, look, full access to the vault, Patreon, lots of things that will not drop on YouTube. Only $5 for full access, so please support your boy. I deeply appreciate you. And now let's get right into Pantera, Vulgar Display of Power.
In the States, there's a problem with race because of ignorant past burn fires. From evolution, we've been killing each other. I think a man should have it down to a science. No chance, not for a minute, not for a second. I won't be defensive, I'm straight out. In my opinion, you better listen to a man who knows what he's saying.
Yo, it's a different cadence from Philip Anselmo. You know what I'm saying? He was almost kind of rapping there in the beginning. I kind of want to hear that again.
In the States, there's a problem with race because of ignorant past burn fires. From evolution, we've been killing each other. I think a man should have it down to a science. No chance, not for a minute, not for a second. I won't be defensive, I'm straight out. In my opinion, you better listen to a man who knows what he's saying.
So we're tackling the race issue now. And he has the audacity to go into it. Of course he has to. On an album called Vulgar Display of Power, where he's completely turning the tables over on all of the systems, you have to have the bravery to confront the issue. And it seems like he does.
Not for a minute, not for a second. I won't be defensive, I'm straight out. In my opinion, you better listen to a man
Who knows what he's saying?
I see your side. You're running out for the mere fact that you feel inferior. Be superior, and now you're inferior.
Ooh. See, he does have bars. He says you run and hide from the mere fact that you feel inferior. Be superior and know your interior. Bars. It was Martin Luther King, after all, who said, judge not by the color of your skin, but by the content of your character. That means look not at the exterior, but the interior, right? That's what we judge people by, right? And so he's stepping, he's treading into this territory. We're going to continue to let him cook here.
I see your side. You're running out for the mere fact that you feel inferior. Be superior, and now you're inferior. Race, pride, prejudice. Black man, white man, no stand. Live in the past, we make it last. I hate mess. No solution, my pollution for revolution. So low behold my eyes. This land of fools will rise. Now God, for now on. You're now God, for now on.
Wow. So he's saying you're no good for no one if you are continually dwelling in the past, at which point we can no longer move further. I'm hearing that. He says, live in the past, we make it last. I hated mass. So he's like, what about the present? There's a problem, I think, in modernity, which is kind of why the left is dying. Damn. Where, it's like we have to perpetually live in the past, which is not that we should forget the past, but we should live in the present, shouldn't we? If we judge everything by yesterday's trouble, how can there ever be a revolution in the life of the mind? Yeah, that's a message that I respect. I mean, of course, I have to admit I am more conservative. I mean, listen, I'm a man of a certain age. I'm not super, I didn't vote for Trump. I didn't vote for Kamala either. Yeah, but yeah, I definitely am conservative leaning, respectfully.
Progress is minimal. White hoods and militant, it's such a pity. Living, breathing, violence in your city.
It's really interesting that he's deciding to rap on this beat. I want to hear that transition once more. Yo, he's going after it head on. He says, you blame oppression and play the role of criminals. I mean, look, I'm no fan of Karl Marx. This was the whole Marxist thing. I mean, in Stalingrad and all of that nonsense, there was, saying that, oh, the criminality is just a result of, past oppression, and you have to get over that. What can they do but be criminals? I personally, along with Dr. Richard Brown, would call that the racism of low expectations. Lord have mercy. Are we getting into it here? Progress is minimal. White hoods and militant, it's such a pity. Living, breathing, violence in your city. So he goes after both sides. He says, we don't want white hoods. We don't want Klan members. We don't want militants on that side, nor do we want, this blind-eyed nationalism, pride for no reason, right? You shouldn't have pride based on your skin color. You should have pride based on character content, right? There's nothing to be proud of if your skin is white or your skin is dark. What kind of person are you, and who are you contributing to society and your family and your friends? What are you about internally? Respectfully. White hoods and militant, it's such a pity. Living, breathing, violence in your city. It's one man, and one home, and one wow. You never know what that variety. Full of anxiety and no one to point at, question or even talk to. In his private grave, no matter what color, he wouldn't be safe from hell. He's well, a closed mouth playing the part of prison saying race. KKK, hold on. And I didn't mean to say KKK like that. Bars. No pun intended. Hear me out. Look, he talks about variety, right? He lived alone with no variety. He gives us kind of this thought experiment. If a man had one home in one world and he lived alone, full of anxiety, no variety. Remember in the last song, and pardon me for just a second, the last song, Rise, where he talks about we need variety, right? In order for us to have depth, right? And so he's like, look, you don't need... a man can achieve hatred all on his own. It doesn't necessarily have to be a result of his past or his motivated expectations about the future. Even if a man lived alone with no variety, full of anxiety, no one to point at, right? No one to talk to, he'd be in a private grave. Bro, these are dope words. I'm really excited that Pantera decided to tackle this head on. Yeah, give it to me. Give me that Selah moment, buddy. Yo, that was very, very powerful. And so far, and I wrote this down on my little sticky pad, no diversions. You know what I'm saying? Because we're trying to build something with this Pantera album, Vulgar Display of Power. In track 1 called Mouth for War, it was almost like they're saying, stop the game, right? I want off this train. I'm not willing to play the game anymore. I'm failing at it. Everyone else is failing at it. Hence the cultural anxiety. Maybe we should stop playing this game, right? And stop falling for the double bind. And then we move to a new level. And a new level was a redefining of terms. Like, hey, what if now that we've left the game, we can define the terms for ourselves? What if we can really communicate with one another authentically and kind of share this bond, which creates this new thing? And then Walk was like, let's go back to the old ways where we establish respect for ourselves. Respect, right? For ourselves and those around us, and not kind of, impede on each other's territory, but are willing to fight if people impede upon ours. And then fucking Hostile was like a declaration of war, right? It's like, hey, you know what? This system has a lot of our friends and family members trapped. So let's just talk about how irrational all of it is and see who we can pull out of that system into our system. And then you had This Love, which is kind of like the aftermath song for me. The aftermath of what effects has living in this society, what toll has that had on us? And love, and how we, sometimes see other people as means to an end as opposed to an end in themselves, right? That's one of the consequences of living in a society with messed up rules, right? And then Rise, to me, was just kind of like boot camp, establishing that, we need diversity in order to deepen our understanding and to have, depth and structure so that this thing is not so easily breakable. We need people with different cultural backgrounds and opinions to fill this new organism that we're building. And then finally, with No Good, it's like, let's rid ourselves of the diversions, because society has a weakness, right? It uses an us versus them strategy based on something as shallow as skin color and race. So let's actually build this new thing that we're building off of something that's more stable. Namely, ethics, wisdom. Bro, this is fire so far. And we're going right into Live in a Hole. Why not? Let's go right into it.